Thank you very much, Sergio. Hello, thank you. Welcome to Barcelona. My name is Cristóbal Bernal, and I am part of Bimetica. I will talk about our focus for pro-BIM industry, quality, and perspective. But first, what do we do in Bimetica? We are a consulting company geared towards manufacturers so they can structure their data and produce BIM content. And I have to make that clear because now BIM content can mean basically anything, and we are aware of this, but we are focused into manufacturing this information into producing BIM elements that professionals of the construction industry can use. And we also have a service in which we have a website where we publish that content in order to be downloaded by professionals. So how did we start? We were working with architectural offices in the US, and we were already using BIM content. There are some few examples, but in 2011 we realized that most of the libraries that were available were not thought out as international libraries. Everything was very focused on a particular country or a particular objective. And most importantly for us, there was no real content in Spanish. We needed something that we could use for Spanish projects. So we decided to form Bimetica, and we decided to give it our best. But we had to deal with the lagging ghost of the 2008 financial crisis. I'm sure all of you already know the impact that it had, but for us in the construction industry, it seemed that we were slowly falling down and kept falling down and falling down, and everything just seemed to come to a standstill. So what did we do? Well, we focused first on what we knew, and our approach was the same as basically everybody else. We started building content thinking that they were works of art. We had the ability to do parametric design, we had the ability to put information, but somehow this was more of an artistic way of looking at it rather than making it useful for a project from design, construction, and then maintenance. But we were lucky enough that we came at the right moment where most of the BIM guidelines were already getting specified. We learned about the Building Smart initiative, we started working with AFC, and we also had to take a look at COBE. Which I have to admit was kind of a headache at first. But we managed to integrate all of these into our design procedures for BIM elements. So we came up with the concept of quality and balance. And they have these three main. First one, we focus on the modeling. We have to know exactly what the product is for and who's going to be using that particular product at a given stage. Secondly, usability. We cannot over-parametricize an object, nor we can make it as complex that you can have one element that can be turned into any kind of the manufacturer's whole series of catalogs. So, because if you make it, if it's too hard to use, then it will not be used within a project. And thirdly, which is actually our greatest challenge, is to make it as lightweight as possible, because we are aware that in a project there is not only one or two or three elements, but there's probably hundreds. So our idea of quality is having these three components blended together and negotiated adequately for a proper BIM catalog. And what about the information? I think we've come a long way since 2011, in which we tend to add more information when we tend to define and coordinate information in a better way, thanks to the standards. We work with the manufacturer's data sheets, we include the CE marking, and we're also using the IFC parameters as well as custom parameters from the manufacturers themselves. But still, we could not escape what we call the beast that lay in Spain. And this beast was formed by the fear of every industry participant in Spain. This was a fear of an industry that felt that it could do no wrong, that everything was great, but now with very little construction going on, there was a withholding, a sense that there was too much fear in order to give us tech, to innovate or to go beyond and see what was happening out there. And we were met with the replies that saying that BIM is just another 3D. It's a fad that somebody just invented and they want to do some marketing on it. Or the fact that they were aware that BIM was being used, they actually wanted to make it, get it over quickly, and they would rather do it in bountiful steps rather than taking quantitative small steps. Also, having no real ownership of their objects or their copyright, which meant that even though they could say they could have BIM catalogs, they were not actually theirs of the manufacturers to use and to update freely. And thirdly, which is another common problem in the industry, was the use of unlicensed software. How can this have been dealt with? So manufacturers in Spain were aware of this map, in which they thought that basically the most part of North America and Europe was already working in BIM, while BIM was being implemented in the rest of the world. And then they realized that they had to structure the information in order to suit those needs in BIM. But then they have to also put that information into some sort of containers or some sort of files, which then got split into the most widely used modeling softwares around. And after that, they had to consider the economic impact that this project might realize at a short term and a long term. So in the end, they were very confused on how to approach this. And it seemed that every time that they asked question, the answer that they got generated 5 or 6 more questions. So it was very confusing for them to actually nail down what the value of their investment in BIM or their approach in BIM was to be. So we kind of felt like San Jorge, St. George, that we had to fight in some way this beast, because we have this strong belief that we believe that that product manufacturers are a key player in BIM, and it has to be part of the whole BIM process. So we took a step back and decided to reach out in a different way. We wanted to motivate the industry. We wanted to say to everyone that BIM was not a fad. BIM is not just a 3D representation, and most importantly, BIM was the way to the future, and I say was. And the first key to this was to inform as many people as we could, to create gateways of information. Secondly, and I think this is pretty much BIM, it's collaborate. And the key issue here was try to link up the technical teams with the sales teams and the marketing teams. And thirdly, we had to invest in innovation. We believe that innovation is the key to the future, to ongoing prosperity. So, in summary, we had to add value to BIM in Spain. This is the reason that we had to do like the proposal in the UK, in which it had a push-pull strategy. We had to add enough value to the existing BIM system so that manufacturers can actually have a closer way of knowing how their return of investment would be. And we had to also motivate not just the manufacturers, but the professionals themselves through information. And at this point, I had to mention that the company Knauf got interested in BIM, and was a very pleasant surprise, since Pablo Maroto seemed to pick up the idea very quickly. He was leading the BIM team back then in 2013, and he did not only stop at developing their content in BIM. He wanted to go full on ahead and try to not only please architects or designers with the graphical aspect of the content, but they wanted to push the informational aspect even more. So this was a wonderful project in which we were actually forced to try and seek out as many ways as possible to coordinate the information from all of the Knauf systems into proper BIM content. Secondly, in terms of information, well, we always we would like to add value by generating free conferences and events. We create technical sections for manufacturers and BIM seminars with international speakers. And I think you can see Mr. Richard Petrie there. Also, in terms of collaboration, we believe that this is not a one company aim, nor it's a single issue that to be done by one person or a team of persons. We believe that collaboration is the key. So we have strongly motivated different agencies and institutions to collaborate and share its knowledge, from public and semi-public institutions to manufacturers associations, and open new markets and industry fairs. Which I have to mention that last year we developed the BIM Expo, which was the first fair centered wholly on BIM. It was part of the e-Power in Building construction fair in Madrid, where we had participation from 60 exhibitors, almost 20,000 visitors. We had 50 international speakers, 400 of attendance to those conferences, and 3,700 participants online, as well as the inclusion of 90 manufacturers who, as we like to say, jumped into BIM. And this has been, let's say, another key point of ours. We labeled it Jump into BIM Technology because it's our way of motivating manufacturers into the creation of one of their products in BIM. And why do we do this? Because it's not the fact that they need to have one of their elements developed in BIM, but it's more of the journey. It's more of the experience that they need to have in order to know how to coordinate their information, what's the output going to be like, and how can they use it in order to work more closely with the designers and specifiers. And now, a few years later, we are seeing the growing interest of manufacturers. We see we are actively promoting Building Smart. We are working with the updated standards. They see the value of the design committees, and they see the integration of the CE markings in their objects. And most importantly, they are seeing the bigger picture, that it's not about just producing an object to be able to sell their product, but they are able to see the whole process of the construction industry, from the conception stage over to to the maintenance stage, all across. And over these years, we have generated our own image of the world, since we are very big proponents of internationalization, of reaching out across borders and working in different places with different standards in different ways. We have developed this map, in which not only are we able to perceive countries that already have BIM mandates or are already have implemented BIM as 100%, or in countries in which they are working on their implementation of BIM at an institutional level, but we also see that there are many professionals who are BIM capable, BIM ready, working in countries that not yet have that requirement in order to work 100% in BIM. Also, we believe that we've come a long way from 2011, because we've worked with 400 companies and institutions, and of those, 270 companies have published their BIM content with us. So that means that they are having a lot of trust in what we do, and of them, 80% are from Spain. So we like to think that we had a small part in bringing back the construction industry. But this does not end here. There is still a lot of work to do. And for example, the biggest, the most imminent task that we have is being able to have harmonized international BIM content. And this is done through structuring data and standards. And this is one of the key objectives in the near future for all of the manufacturers. And that is in the way of bridging the gap between professionals and manufacturers, because we think that this is the key in order to be innovative. And thirdly, continue innovating through interaction and collaboration. So I would like to leave you with this phrase that we use in the office constantly that says, the path of innovation is creating value through the generation of knowledge. Thank you.